What up, big dogs? Welcome to the muck hole. Walk into almost any bookstore today, and you'll notice a pattern. Front and center are tables piled high with the latest viral romance novels and cookie-cutter self-help slop, each screaming for attention with flashy covers and trendy titles. Meanwhile, the truly great literature, like the classics, philosophy, psychology books that aren't slop, the thought-provoking novels, they seem relegated to a single dusty shelf in the back. This is the slopification of books, an industry glut of formulaic romances and repetitive self-improvement books that crowd out quality. It's as if publishers are ladling out mass-produced book slop for undiscerning readers, while nourishing stuff sits unnoticed. It's not just your or my imagination. There are more books being published now than ever, especially in certain genres. In recent years, the number of new titles in the self-help category nearly tripled, from about 30,000 to 85,000 per year between 2013 and 2019. Even though annual sales of self-help books grew only modestly, reaching around 18.6 million copies sold in 2019. In other words, the supply is vastly outpacing demand. At one point, the count of published self-help books was growing faster than sales, meaning thousands of titles are floating out there without finding readers. No wonder so many of them feel interchangeable. Meanwhile, the romance genre has exploded into a money-printing machine. Romance fiction now generates around $1.44 billion in revenue, making it the highest-earning fiction genre. In the 12 months leading up to May 2023, over 39 million romance books were sold in print, a whopping 52% jump from the previous year. To put that into perspective, romance alone accounted for 2/3 of adult fiction sales growth in 2022. And it's not just that more people are reading romance, they're often all reading the same few books. In early 2023, just two mega authors, Colleen Hoover and Emily Henry, made up 80% of all romance print sales. Fucking nuts. Two authors that write absolute slop represent 8 of 10 romance novels sold. This suggests a hit-driven market where everyone is flocking to whatever's trending on TikTok or Instagram, leaving little room for anything off formula. It's clear that the industry strategy is more is more. Thousands of new self-help titles, roughly 15,000 per year in the US, get shoveled into stores, each promising some life-changing insight. Romance publishers crank out endless love stories because they know readers gobble them up quickly and come back for more. Publishers openly admit that romance novels have short lifespans, so they chum out high volumes to keep up. Half of the top 10 most competitive categories on Kindle are related to romance. Quantity has seemingly overtaken quality as the guiding principle. After all, why invest time polishing one great novel when you can sell 5 mediocre ones to the same dumbass reader? Let's talk about romance a bit more. Specifically, the kind of spicy, trope-filled book talk romance that has taken over. Book Talk, the community of readers on TikTok, has become a driving force that generates slop book bestsellers. One of the most popular genres on Book Talk is unapologetically smut, sexually explicit romance novels. These aren't your grandma's Harley Quinns, we're talking modern erotic romance often packaged as innocent-looking rom-com paperbacks. An article in The Independent noted that a cute rom-com like The Love Hypothesis surprises readers with sudden explicit scenes. First, they subtly compare a French kiss to slicing warm butter. Then suddenly, they introduce the reader to this despicable string of words that I'm about to read. I apologize in advance. Her insides opened up to him without warning. They welcomed and pulled at him until he bottomed out, until he was wedged deep and stretching her to the point that it should be breaking, but just made her feel filled, sealed, and perfect. And that's on the lighter side for these books too. Many of today's romance bestsellers hide the gooner content behind these cartoon covers. They range from bestiality to weird rape fantasies, and it's working. That novel has sat in Amazon's top 10 erotica titles for ages, and it has hundreds of thousands of gushing reviews. Book Talk and similar platforms reward books that are easily marketable and emotionally extreme. In practice, marketable means hitting as many familiar tropes as possible. It's common to see a Book Talk famous romance novel advertise itself as a checklist. Enemies to lovers? Check. Billionaire bad boy? Check. Traumatized heroine who's somehow also not like the other girls? Check. Authors sometimes seem to cram tropes in by the dozen, as if the sheer quantity of cliches will guarantee a hit. Some books now list their tropes up front in the blurb, essentially saying, "Don't worry about the story, just know it has your favorite buzzwords." This formulaic approach extends to character types and themes. Ever notice how many of these viral romance novels feature the same stock characters? There's the brooding, damaged male lead, who probably has a six-pack and a dark past with billions of dollars, and the innocent, quirky female lead with a lack of personality. Her main role in the plot is to fix the emotionally unavailable, borderline toxic man, or beast man. In book talk romances, borderline abusive behavior is frequently romanticized. The handsome dude who stalks or controls the heroine isn't a red flag, he's just a misunderstood soul who needs love. These stories often toy with taboos like huge age gaps, step-sibling relationships, or bestiality without any critique. The result is a slop heap of books that present unhealthy dynamics as sexy, swoon-worthy drama. Through repetition, dubious consent and power imbalances start to seem normal to the reader, even desirable, especially to young readers who form a large chunk of the book talk audience. If you point out the problems with these tropes, be prepared for some backlash. Many fans view criticisms of these books as an attack on them, the predominantly women readers. We should be able to criticize the quality of these books without hating the readers. Not every novel has to be high art, of course. There's nothing wrong with an escapist read for fun. The concern is that the sheer volume of tropey, low-quality slop books is edging out books that offer deeper or more varied storytelling. When the new hot romance of the month sells more copies than the Bible, it's a sign of just how skewed the market has become. And because these books sell like crazy, publishers are accelerating the assembly line. Sequels are now rushed out in record time to capitalize on the hype. For example, a best-selling romantasy, The Fourth Wing, had its sequel hit shelves just 6 months after the first book, an insanely short turnaround in publishing. Editing and polish inevitably suffer under such churn. Readers have noticed some bestsellers riddled with typos and sloppy prose, prompting the question of whether anyone proofread them at all before they hit Target's shelves. The trope is the selling point. The writing is secondary. Some bestseller dialogue might feature a domineering alpha male growling something like, "You belong to me now," a line that in real life would earn an eye roll or a restraining order. But in these books, it's greeted with swoons. The bottom line for romance is, and kinda always has been, sex and familiarity sell. Give the audience their spicy scenes, familiar trope-driven plots, and an instantly recognizable cover. Lately it's been like bright illustrations of cartoon couples or objects. And you have a recipe for a bestseller. It might be slop, but it's addictive slop for those who have acquired the taste. Now onto the self-help genre. Another major culprit in the slopification of books. If romance sells readers on emotional escapism, self-help sells the illusion of progress. Pick up a random self-improvement book, and you're likely to encounter the same tired platitudes. Believe in yourself. Think positive. 10 steps to success. Rinse and repeat. By 2020, it was a $10 billion market, and it's projected to hit $14 billion by 2025. So of course, every wannabe guru is pumping out a book to claim their slice of the pie. The result is an overwhelming quantity of self-help titles, many of which are near clones of each other. Remember the stat from earlier? Roughly 85,000 self-help books were published in 2019 alone, and we're adding around 15,000 more each year in the US alone. How many ways can you really tell people to follow your dreams or manage your time better? Apparently infinite. One analysis found that motivational and inspirational self-help books, the most popular subcategory, sold about 4.3 million units in 2019, up from 1.4 million in 2013, driven by hits like Girl, Stop Apologizing, and The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. But during the same period, the number of new titles in this space tripled. Tons of new books entered the arena, but the readers mostly kept buying the few big hits. This implies that there are thousands of authors of lesser books scrambling for scraps, often resorting to gimmicky titles or outrageous claims to stand out. Just as romance has its tropes, self-help has a playbook of cliches too. Consider these greatest hits of advice you've heard a million times. You create your reality. Follow your bliss. Live your best life now. Nothing oversimplified about those. Another favorite of mine is just follow your passion. Sounds uplifting, until you realize that life is a bit more complicated than that. And yet, new books keep dressing up the same concepts in shiny new packaging, Often the only thing that changes is the buzzword. One year, the secret law of attraction is in vogue. The next year, it's manifesting abundance. But scratch the surface a little bit, and it's the same fucking idea, that thinking really hard about success will magically bring success. And this isn't to say that all self-help books are bad or useless. Some offer genuine insight or at least a little motivational kick. The issue is that with so many titles on the market, the signal-to-noise ratio is abysmal. For every classic like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there are dozens of slapdash books that basically remix those same habits and give them a new name. It's a joke of a genre at this point. Many self-help books simply offer you the feeling of improvement instead of the tools that you need to actually make change. A sort of literary comfort food that doesn't translate into action. You read it, nod along, and then you do nothing differently, which tells you a lot about how superficially these books engage readers. So why do people keep buying them? Hope and marketing. Each new title promises that this author finally has the answers. A fresh method, a secret sauce that all those other books missed. Feeling insecure, stuck in life? There's always going to be a new snake oil salesman ready to sell you the solution. During the pandemic, interest in personal development spiked again. No surprise, people had a lot of time. And the industry was eager to meet that demand, whether or not each new author is actually qualified. It's kind of common now for someone to achieve one life accomplishment, say founding a startup or losing 50 pounds, and immediately publishing a self-help memoir to teach you how to do the same. The advice often boils down to, be like me, ignoring that what worked for one person in one context might not work universally. But hey, it sells. What the hell do I know? One hallmark of a lot of self-help drivel is the overuse of cheesy motivational quotes. For instance, any book dabbling in New Age philosophy will inevitably drop a line like, "The universe will conspire to help you if you truly desire something." That's a watered-down paraphrase of something from The Alchemist, a hugely popular book to be fair. Or consider the mantra, "You're perfect just the way you are." This can be a nice sentiment for self-esteem, but some self-help authors paradoxically tell you that you're perfect and then give you a 300-page plan to change everything about yourself. The mixed messaging and unrealistic positivity converge on the absurd. Personal anecdotes and opinions are often repackaged as universal truths, with little to no scientific basis. And some keep parroting advice that has been disproven or oversimplified, like the idea that you should always think positive, which taken to extremes leads to belittling others and blaming people for their own misfortunes. In short, there's a lot of shit to sift through. A particularly annoying trend is the one-size-fits-all life hacks. You know the type. You know, stuff like the billionaire morning routine, or 5 tricks Navy SEALs use to conquer their fear. These books reduce complex aspects of life to gimmicks. For example, an author might insist that waking up at 4 a.m. daily will solve all your problems, because that's what they did to write their book or to train for a marathon. Never mind that most people have different sleep cycles or obligations. I guess nuance isn't as sexy as some catchy rule. Readers likely attempt such hacks or routines and feel like failures when they don't work. The irony is that if you've read 1 or 2 solid self-help books, you'll basically have the whole toolbox. Change your environment, set goals, build good habits, stay positive but realistic, and so on. Reading dozens more may just lead to analysis paralysis, an endless quest for the next secret, instead of actually applying what you've already learned. Finally, let's not forget the sheer ego and marketing theatrics that often accompany self-help authors. Many position themselves as messianic figures. Think of the superstar gurus with the toothy grins and the cover promising that this book will change your life. Some do have some valuable knowledge, I guess, but others are essentially snake oil salesmen for the modern age. And once they get a little taste of success, they keep going. Did you know the motivational speaker Deepak Chopra has written at least 80 fucking books as of 2015? 80. 21 of them are bestsellers too. And you have to wonder, after the first few dozen titles, is there really anything left to say, or is it just rephrasing the same stupid ideas? Something tells me that a lot of self-help publishing is more about maintaining a brand or an image and feeding the guru's empire than delivering genuinely meaningful insights. We touched a bit on book talk's role in romance, but it's worth zooming out to the broader trend of viral books and what it means for quality. Social media has become a kingmaker that rewards the most marketable content. A snappy video or provocative premise can send a book to the stratosphere. A few years ago, Colleen Hoover was a mid-list author. Now, thanks largely to TikTok buzz, she occupies half the spots on the bestseller list at any given time. Her novels, heavy on melodrama and twists, are perfect fodder for short emotional TikTok clips.
I'm literally sobbing at chapter 20.
The algorithm amplifies what triggers quick, strong reactions. This has led publishers to actively court BookTok influencers and even slap a "as seen on #BookTok" stickers on covers. Unfortunately, marketability trumps artistic integrity in many cases. Books are packaged and promoted as bite-sized content rather than works of literature to be savored. This viral economy creates feedback loops. When a book blows up online, stores give it prime placement, and in turn, that drives sales further, which convinces more publishers to emulate it. So if a dark, spicy romance like Icebreaker, a hockey romance that went viral on TikTok, becomes a hit, suddenly you'll see a flood of similar hockey romance or sports romance titles. It's comical. One successful mafia romance or secret billionaire story can spawn an army of copycats, with nearly identical covers and blurbs, all chasing that trend-driven dollar. However, what goes up fast also comes down fast. These viral sensations often burn bright and then disappear, and that's fine for entertainment. Not every book needs to be Science and Human Behavior by Skinner. But the concern many readers have, myself included, is that the focus on quick-hit content is crowding out support for more substantial works. Publishers have finite marketing budgets and shelf space is limited, and the book industry is already dying. If that one dusty shelf is holding all the masterworks while tables overflow with trend-driven fluff, it becomes harder for the average reader to even discover books outside the slop machine. And what do I mean by good literature? It could be anything from classic novels to contemporary literary fiction, biographies to thoughtful nonfiction, books that aren't easily distilled into TikTok bait or self-help slogans. These books often require more patience and engagement from the reader. They might challenge you, make you think, or God forbid, leave some ambiguity. Unsurprisingly, they don't always lend themselves to the dopamine-fueled online promotion cycle. Consequently, bookstores give them less prominence because they're not the hot trend. They might get 1 or 2 copies stocked versus the towering piles of Colleen Hoover, or the newest Diet Guru's book. The slop is pushing aside other choices. Many bookstores are businesses struggling to survive, so it's hard to fault them for stocking what sells. Yet, it's a bit disheartening to see that a great work of literary fiction, or a brilliant piece of philosophy, is gathering dust, while the front display is all near identical romance covers and celebrity-penned self-help books. This isn't just nostalgia speaking. There's data showing a real shift in patterns. Adult literary fiction sales have been relatively flat or declining in recent years, while genres like romance or young adult fantasy and pop psychology slop have surged. In 2021, romance was the second highest selling fiction category, trailing behind general thrillers and mysteries. Meanwhile, categories that might be considered more serious, say historical fiction or certain literary novels, didn't come near those numbers. The danger is that publishers may invest less in those lucrative types of books, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where thoughtful literature becomes ever more niche. So is the situation hopeless? Is the future of reading destined to be an all-you-can-eat buffet of regurgitated romances and self-help sound bites? Not necessarily. There will always be discerning readers seeking substance, and there will always be writers creating truly original, profound works. The challenge is cutting through the noise. If you're a reader, consider this a friendly nudge to seek out that dusty shelf. Try the novel from an unknown author tucked in the corner, or the philosophy book without a TikTok following. It might not give you that instant sugar rush that a steamy enemies to lovers trope will, but it could linger with you longer and in more meaningful ways. As for the industry, some balance would be nice. It's perfectly okay to enjoy a trashy paperback or a feel-good motivational book. We all have mental junk food. But when only junk food gets mass distribution, we're culturally poorer for it. This slopification of books is going to be hard to reverse, if it ever will be, because it's driven by collective short-term desires. And in this case, the desire to make a quick buck or to have a quick thrill. But every individual reader can make a difference by being mindful of what they consume. Demand better, respectfully shame the Gooner slop book enjoyers, and over time, perhaps publishers will supply better. And if you do love your book talk smut or your morning routine guides, that's fine. Enjoy them in private. But please consider sprinkling in something outside of that comfort zone. Think of it as a balanced literary diet. Some cupcakes can be good, but also add some whole grains and shit. Let's not allow the cupcakes to shove every other dish off the table. In the end, quality will endure. Decades from now, few will remember most of the copy-paste books that hit the bestseller list in 2025. But the truly good books of this era, the ones that are buried on dusty shelves or maybe even not published yet, will find their recognition eventually. Keep reading widely and thoughtfully, and maybe next time you're in the bookstore, give that lonely shelf a little love. It might just surprise you with something good hidden in a sea of slop. Well, that's it. Thanks for hanging out in the muck hole for a bit.